Bhagavad Gita, text 21, chapter 7. Yo yo yam yam tanum bhakta shraddhaya chitum icchati tasya tasya charan shraddham tameva vidadamaham. Yaha, whoever, yam, whichever, tanum, form of a demigod, bhakta, devotee, shraddhaya, with faith, architum, to worship, ichchati, desires, tasya, to him, achalam, steady, shraddham, faith, tam, what, that, eva, surely, vidadam, he give, aham, I, translation, I mean everyone's heart has a super soul. As soon as one desires to worship some demigod, I make his faith steady so that he can devote himself to that particular deity. Purport: God has given independence to everyone. Therefore, if a person desires to have material enjoyment and wants very sincerely to have such facilities from the material demigod, the Supreme Lord has a super soul in everyone's heart, understands and gives facilities to such persons. As the Supreme Father of all living entities, He does not interfere with their independence, but gives all facilities so that they can fulfill their material desires. Some may ask why the all-powerful God gives facilities to the living entities for enjoying this material world and so lets them fall into the trap of the illusory energy. The answer is that if the Supreme Lord as Super Soul does not give such facilities, then there is no meaning to independence. Therefore, He gives everyone full independence, whatever one likes, but His ultimate instruction we find in the Bhagavad Gita, one should give up all other engagements and fully surrender unto Him. That will make man happy. Both the living entity and the demigods are the subordinate to the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, the living entity cannot worship the demigod by his own desire, nor can the demigod bestow any benediction without the Supreme will. As it is said, not a blade of grass moves without the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Generally, persons who are distressed in the material world go to the demigods as they are advised in the Vedic literature. A person wanting some particular thing may worship such and such a demigod. For example, a diseased person is recommended to worship the sun god. A person wanting education may worship the goddess of learning, Saraswati, and a person wanting a beautiful wife may worship the goddess Uma, the wife of Lord Shiva. In this way, there are recommendations in the Shastras, Vedic scriptures, for different modes of worship of different demigods. And because a particular living entity wants to enjoy a particular material facility, the Lord inspires him with a strong desire to achieve that benediction from that particular demigod, and so he successfully receives the benediction. The particular mode of the devotional attitude of the living entity toward a particular type of demigod is also arranged by the Supreme Lord. The demigods cannot infuse the living entities with such an affinity, but because he is the Supreme Lord or the Super Soul who is present in the hearts of all living entities, Krishna gives impetus to man to worship certain demigods. The demigods are actually different parts of the universal body of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, they have no independence. In the Vedic literature, it is stated the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Super Soul is also present within the demigod, within the heart of the demigod. Therefore, he arranges through the demigod to fulfill the desire of the living entity. But both the demigod and the living entity are independent, are dependent on the supreme will. They are not independent. Text 22. Sadaya Shraddhaya Yuktas Tasya Radhanamihati Labhati Chatata Kaman Mayaiva Hitan Hitan. Saha hi taya, with that Shraddhaya inspiration Yukta, endowed, Tasya of the demigod, Aradhanam, for the worship, Ihate, he aspires, Labhate abstains, Cha, and Tata, from that Kaman, his desires, Maya, by me, Eva alone Vihitan arrange, he certainly, Tan those. Translation: endowed with such a faith, he endeavors to worship a particular demigod and obtains his desires. But in actuality, these benefits are bestowed by me alone. The purport: the demigods cannot award benedictions to their devotees without the permission of the Supreme Lord. The living entity may forget that everything is the property of the Supreme Lord, but the demigods do not forget. So the worship of the demigods and achievement of desired results are due not to the demigods but to the Supreme Personality of Godhead by arrangement. The less intelligent living entity does not know this, and therefore he foolishly goes to the demigods for some benefit. But the pure devotee, when in need of something, prays only to the Supreme Lord. Asking for material benefit, however, is not a sign of a pure devotee. A living entity goes to demigods usually because he is mad to fulfill his lust. This happens when something undue is desired by the living entity and the Lord himself does not fulfill the desire. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said that one who worships the Supreme Lord and at the same time desires material enjoyment is contradictory in his desires. Devotional service to the Supreme Lord and the worship of a demigod cannot be on the same platform, because worship of a demigod is material and devotional service to the Supreme Lord is completely spiritual. For the living entity who desires to return to Godhead, material desires are impediments. A living entity, a pure devotee of the Lord, is therefore not awarded. A pure devotee of the Lord is therefore not awarded the material benefits desired by less intelligent living entities, who therefore prefer to worship demigods of the material world rather than engage in the devotional service of the Supreme Lord. Text 23. Antavattu phalam tesham tadbhavatalpamedasam devan devo yajo yanti madbhakta yanti mamapi. Antavat perishable too, but phalam fruit tesham there tat bhavati becomes alpamedasam of those of small intelligence. Devan to the demigods, deva yaja the worships of the demigods, yanti go mat my bhakta devotees, yanti go mam to be api also. Men of small intelligence worship the demigods and their fruits are limited and temporary. Those who worship the demigods go to the planets of the demigods, but my devotees ultimately reach my supreme planet. Purport. Some commentators on the Bhagavad Gita say that one who worships a demigod can reach the Supreme Lord, but here it is clearly stated that the worshippers of demigods go to the different planetary systems where various demigods are situated, just as worshipper of sun achieves the sun or a worshipper of the demigod of the moon achieves the moon. Similarly, if anyone wants to worship a demigod like that, like Indra, he can attain that particular demigod's planet. It is not that everyone, regardless of whoever demigod is, whatever demigod is worshipped, will reach the supreme personality of Godhead. That is denied here. For it is clearly stated that the worshippers of the demigods go to different planets in the material world, but the devotee of the Supreme Lord goes directly to the supreme planet of the personality of Godhead. Here the point may be raised that if the demigods are different parts of the body of the Supreme Lord, then the same end should be achieved by worshipping them. However, worshippers of demigods are less intelligent because they don't know to what part of the body food must be supplied. Some of them are foolish, so foolish that they claim that there are many parts and many ways to supply food. This isn't very sanguine. Can anyone supply food to the body through ears or eyes? They do not know that these demigods are different parts of the universal body of the Supreme Lord. And in their ignorance, they believe that each and every demigod is a separate god and a competitor of the Supreme Lord. Not only are the demigods parts of the Supreme Lord, but ordinary living entities are also. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that the Brahmanas are the head of the Supreme Lord, and the Kshatriyas are his arms, the Vaishyas are his waist, the Shudras are his legs, and all serve different functions. Regardless of the situation, if one knows that both the demigods and he himself are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, his knowledge is perfect. But if he does not understand this, he achieves different planets. He achieves different planets where demigods reside. This is not the same destination. This is not the same destination the devotee reaches. The results achieved by the demigods benedictions are perishable, because within this material world, the planets, the demigods, their worshippers are all perishable. Therefore, it is clearly stated in this verse that all results achieved by the worshipping demigods are perishable, and therefore such worship is performed by the less intelligent living entity. Because the pure devotee engaged in Krishna consciousness in devotion service of the Supreme Lord achieves eternal blissful existence that is full of knowledge, his achievements and those of the common worshipper of the demigods are different. The Supreme Lord is unlimited, his favor is unlimited, his mercy is unlimited. Therefore, the mercy of the Lord upon his pure devotees is unlimited. Text 424. Avyaktam vyaktimapannam manyate mamabhyabudaya parabhava jalanto mama vivjam anuttamam. Avyaktam, non-manifested, Vyaktim, personality, Apannam, achieved, Manyate, think, Mam, me, Abuddhaya, less intelligence versus Param, supreme, Bhavam, existence, Ajananta, without knowing, Mama, my, Avyayam, imperishable, Anuttamam, the finest translation. Unintelligent men who do not know me perfectly think that I, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, was impersonal before, and I have now assumed this personality. Due to their small knowledge, they do not know my higher nature, which is imperishable and supreme. Purport. Those who are worshippers of demigods have been described as less intelligent persons, and here the impersonalists are similarly described. Lord Krishna in his personal form is here speaking before Arjuna, and still due to his ignorance, impersonalists argue that the Supreme Lord ultimately has no form. Yamunacharya, a great devotee of the Lord in the disciplic succession of Ramanacharya, has written a very appropriate verse in this connection. He says, Tvam Shila Rupa Charitai Parama Krishta Sattvena Sattvikataya प्रबलैश्च शास्त्रै प्रकापक्याता दैव परमार्थ विदां मतैश्च नैवासुर प्रकृतया प्रभवन्ति बोद्धुम. My dear Lord, devotees like Vyasdeva and Narada know you to be the supreme, know to the personality of Godhead. By understanding different Vedic literatures, one can come to know your characteristics, your form and your activities, and one can thus understand that you are the supreme personality of Godhead. But those who are in the modes of passion, ignorance, the demons, the non-devotees cannot understand you. They are unable to understand you. However, experts such non-devotees may be in discussing Vedanta and the Upanishads and other Vedic literatures. It is not possible for them to understand the personality of Godhead. In the Brahma Samhita, it is stated that the personality of Godhead cannot be understood simply by the study of the Vedanta literature. Only by the mercy of the Supreme Lord can the personality of the Supreme be known. Therefore, in this verse, it is clearly stated that not only are the worshippers of demigods less intelligent, but those non-devotees who are engaged in Vedanta and speculation of Vedic literature without any tinge of true Krishna consciousness are also less intelligent. And for them, it is not possible to understand God's personal nature. Persons who are under the impression that the absolute truth is impersonal are described as abuddhaya, which means who do not know the ultimate feature of the absolute truth. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that supreme realization begins from impersonal Brahman, then rises to the localized soul. But the ultimate word in the absolute truth is the personality of Godhead. Therefore, but the ultimate word is the personality of Godhead. Modern impersonalists are still less intelligent, for they do not even follow their great predecessor Shankaracharya, who has specifically stated that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. Impersonalists, therefore, not knowing the supreme truth, think Krishna to be only the son of Devaki and Vasudeva, or a prince or a powerful living entity. This is also condemned in the Bhagavad Gita 9:11. Avajananti Mamuda Manushim Tanumashridam. Only the fools regard me as an ordinary person. The fact is that no one can understand Krishna without rendering devotional service and without developing Krishna consciousness. The Bhagavatam confirms this. Atapi dedeva padamudadvayam prasadaleshanugrihitaya evahi janati tattvam bhagavan mahimno nachanya eko picharam vichanvan. My Lord, even if one is favored by even a slight trace of the mercy of your lotus feet, you can understand the greatness of your personality. But those who speculate to understand the supreme personality of Godhead are unable to know you, even though they continue to study the Vedas for many years. One cannot understand the supreme personality of Godhead Krishna, or his form or quality or name, simply by mental speculation or by discussing Vedic literature. One must understand him by devotional service. When one is fully engaged in Krishna consciousness, beginning by chanting the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Only one can understand the supreme personality of Godhead. Non-devotee impersonalists think that Krishna is a body made of this material nature, and all his activities, his form and everything are in Maya. Though these impersonalists are known as Mayavadis, they do not know the ultimate truth. The 20th verse clearly states, Kamaistaisthair hitagnana prabhadyanten devata. Those who are blinded by lusty desires surrender unto the different demigods. It is accepted that besides the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there are demigods who have their different planets, and the Lord also has a planet. As stated in the 23rd verse, Deva and Deva Yajo Yanti Madbhakta Yanti Mamapi. The worshippers of demigods go to the different planets of the demigods, and those who are devotees of the Lord of Krishna go to the Krishna Loka planet. Although this is clearly stated, the foolish impersonalists still maintain that the Lord is formless and that these forms are impositions. From the study of the Gita, does it appear that the demigods and the abodes are impersonal? Clearly, neither the demigods nor Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, are impersonal. They are all persons. Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he has his own planet, and the demigods have theirs. Therefore, the monistic contention that the ultimate truth is formless and the form is worship imposed does not hold true. It is clearly stated that it is not imposed. From the Bhagavad Gita, we can clearly understand that the forms of the demigods and the form of the Supreme Lord are simultaneously existing, and that Lord Krishna is Satchidananda, eternally blissful knowledge. The Vedic literature confirms that the supreme absolute truth is knowledge and blissful pleasure, Vijnanam Ananda Brahma, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad 3.9.28, and that he is the reservoir of unlimited auspicious qualities. Ananta Kalyana Gunatmako, so Vishnu Purana 6.584. And the Gita Lord says that although he is Aja, unborn, he still appears. These are the facts that we should understand from the Bhagavad Gita. We cannot understand how the Supreme Personal God can be impersonal. The imposition of the theory of the impersonalist monist is false as far as the statements of the Gita are concerned. It is clear herein that the Supreme Absolute Truth and Krishna has both form and personality. Text 25. Naham prakasha sarvasya yoga maya samavrita muroyam navijananti loko mamajam avyayam. Nor aham I prakasha manifest sarvasya to everyone, yoga maya by internal potency, samavrita covered, mooda foolish, I am these lot, avijananti can understand, loka persons. Me, ajam, unborn, avyayam, inexhaustible. I am never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. For them, I am covered by my internal potency, and therefore they do not know that I am unborn and infallible. Purport: it may be argued that since Krishna was visible to everyone when he was present on this earth, how can it be said that he is not manifest to everyone? But actually, he was not manifest to everyone. When the Krishna was present, there were only a few people who could understand him to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the assembly of Kurus, when Shishupal spoke against Krishna's being elected president of the assembly, Bhishma supported him and proclaimed him to the Supreme God. Similarly, the Pandavas and a few others knew that he was the Supreme, but not everyone. He was not revealed to the non-devotees and the common man. Therefore, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that, but for his pure devotees and all men considered him to be like themselves. He was manifest only to his devotees as the reservoir of all pleasure, but to others, to unintelligent devotees, he was covered by his internal potency. In the prayers of Kunti in the Srimad Bhagavatam 118.19, it is said that the Lord is covered by the curtain of Yogamaya, and thus ordinary people cannot understand him. This Yogamaya curtain is also confirmed in the Ishopanishad Mantra 15, in which the devotee prays, Hiranmayena patrena satyasya bihitam mukam tattvam pushan apavrano satya dharmaya drishyate. O my Lord, you are the maintainer of the entire universe, and devote service to you is the highest religious principle. Therefore, I pray that you will also maintain me. Your transcendental form is covered by the Yogamaya. The Brahmajyoti is the covering of the internal potency. May you kindly remove this growing effulgence that impedes my seeing your Satchidananda Vigraha, your eternal form of bliss and knowledge. The Supreme Personality of Godhead in his transcendental form of bliss and knowledge is covered by the internal potency of the Brahmajyoti, and less intelligent impersonalists cannot see the Supreme on this account. They also in the Srimad Bhagavatam 10.14.7, there is this prayer by Brahma, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, O Super Soul, O Master of all mystery, who can calculate your potency and pastimes in this world. You are always expanding your internal potency, and therefore no one can understand you. Learned scientists and learned scholars can examine the atomic constitution of the material world, or even the planets, but still they are unable to calculate your energy and potency, although you are present before them. The Supreme Personality of God, Lord Krishna, is not only unborn but also avyaya, inexhaustible. He is eternal form of bliss and knowledge, and his energies are all inexhaustible.